10.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the number one concern. Every time something flies over, we're watching.
3 incidents in 3 years involving planes taking off from the South Valley Airport. What officials and residents are saying about it. Plus, the DWR warning fishing enthusiasts of quagga mussels contaminating our state's water bodies. The latest on how many boats were inspected over the weekend. And
Day 1 of Utah Honor Flight just wrapped up. I'm in Washington, D.C. with more on what this special trip means to Utah veterans.
Live from Utah's first TV station, ABC4 News celebrates 75 years.
And welcome to the ABC4 News at 10 o'clock. I'm Emily Flores.
And I'm Glenn Mills. Thanks so much for joining us. Our top story tonight, 3 incidents in 3 years involving planes taking off from the South Valley Airport.
Yes, each ended in an emergency landing in places other than a runway. ABC4's Elena Castro joining us live from West Jordan with a more in-depth look at these incidents. Elena?
A small Piper plane emergency landed in a soccer field yesterday, not far from the South Valley Regional Airport. Luckily, no one was hurt.
A plane crash site yesterday, a regular soccer field today. But this isn't the first time it's happened. Pilots have landed in the West Jordan Soccer Complex, which is just south of the airport, more than once. Last year, another plane emergency landed on the field, and thankfully no injuries resulted in that landing either. But that's not always the case. In 2020, 4 people, including a homeowner, died when a small plane crashed into a home. Residents saying something has to be done.
We love this field, and I know the airport probably won't move, but I'm not sure. I have no clue what to do, but yeah, I think it certainly needs to be addressed.
With every crash or emergency landing, the question arises as to why this keeps happening and if anything can be done. The soccer field is owned by the Salt Lake City Department of Airports and leases it to West Jordan City. We spoke with Dirk Peterson from the West Jordan Police Department about whether the city using the airport's own field is a danger to the community.
I would say there's no extra risk, and really what those pilots are looking for is to stay away from populated areas that have people that have housing. And so if we're looking to avoid housing, and they're looking for bigger areas like fields.
There have been 55 incidences involving planes in 40 years at the South Valley Regional Airport. 6 were fatal. Officer Peterson says that the West Jordan PD is trained for such events, but that after the fact, it's the Federal Aviation Administration that takes over the investigation.
So we've got specific protocols of when there's reports of a possible emergency landing or plane crash, where our whole department is trained in responding for the goal of preservation of life, really trying to minimize and mitigate any kind of damage from debris or the scene itself to preserve that for further investigation.
According to West Jordan PD, there were 2 people in the plane that emergency landed yesterday, a flight instructor and a student. Reporting live from West Jordan, Elena Castro, ABC4 News.
All right, thanks so much, Elena. Appreciate that. Turning now to a first look at the weather forecast.
Yes, let's head over to meteorologist Nate Larson for the latest on outside. Nate?
Yeah, guys, we know that weather wasn't a factor, I guess, in any of those planes taking off. It's been pretty quiet so far today. Looking outside, we still have some winds whipping, but temperatures are comfortable. We're in the 70s here in Salt Lake. In fact, right near 70 degrees at the airport. We did hit temperatures above average today. In fact, normal high is in the upper 70s. We had 86 today, 58 for the overnight low, so trending above normal, not near record highs, fortunately. 98, that's pretty toasty. But we're going to continue to stay above average. Southerly flow is in place across the state with just the far northern fringes of Utah under more of a southwest flow. Thanks to the jet stream riding just to the north of us, it has brought numerous showers and storms to areas like Idaho, eastern Nevada, and portions of southwest Wyoming. We had a few storms. Note that we are going to start to see some changes in our weather pattern. There's a trough of low pressure to the south of us. It's going to eventually shift east, swinging moisture up into our area. This is Wednesday afternoon. We've got isolated storms potentially for tomorrow, so keep your eye to the sky. We'll have some rumbles of thunder out there, some lightning strikes, but even a bigger threat as the low rotates up and around to the east of us, swinging moisture back into our region. Thursday, we'll see more numerous storms even into Friday. So active weather to finish off this week. Tonight's forecast, upper 50s for overnight lows in Salt Lake, near 60 for St. George. We'll have 80s again tomorrow, throwing in that chance of some partly cloudy skies and some thunder showers out there. Glenn, Emily?
All right, thank you so much, Nate. An 11-year-old in Salt Lake City reported being raped after she discovered she was possibly pregnant. According to the police, the victim was taken to a healer after she was not feeling well for several months. While there, she allegedly discovered she was possibly pregnant and had been raped. During a forensic interview, she reportedly said a 45-year-old man had sexually assaulted her at least 4 times. The man threatened to kill her if she reported him. The 45-year-old was arrested on Monday and confessed to raping the girl, the suspect facing 12 first-degree felonies of rape and abuse of a child.
A woman arrested for allegedly firing a gun after crashing into a car in Salt Lake City. Police say 21-year-old Eleni Gonzalez Lira was involved in a car crash but then left the scene. They say the victim of the crash followed Lira but stopped after Lira pulled out a gun and shot at the victim. No injuries were reported. Officers booking Lira into the Salt Lake County Jail on multiple felony and misdemeanor counts. They also say she was driving on a suspended license. The Utah Highway Patrol reporting a decrease in fatalities, but an increase in DUIs over the Memorial Day weekend. There was a total of 160 crashes this year compared to 205 during the same time last year. There were also 2 fatal crashes reported compared to 5 in 2022. Now, the number of fatalities were down to 2 this year compared to 7 reported last year. But there was a drastic increase in DUIs. 53 cases were reported from Friday through Monday.
And in politics now, a source confirming Utah Representative Chris Stewart is planning to resign his seat in Congress. We're expecting a statement from the representative in the near future that will indicate why he's vacating the seat and when, which is likely to be later this summer. Stewart has served Utah's 2nd district since 2013 and has been reelected by a commanding margin every time. If he does resign, the governor would have to schedule a special election to fill that seat until January of 2025.
Now to a story ABC 4 News brought you first today. Salt Lake City Councilwoman Amy Fowler resigning her seat. She was charged with driving under the influence earlier this month. She was pulled over in Springville, police say, on May 5th, and a state trooper reported she had bloodshot eyes blowing over twice the legal limit. Now, Fowler telling ABC 4 News she will resign on July 3rd so she can continue to represent her district throughout the budgeting process for the next financial year. The Salt Lake City Council, in a statement expressing support for Fowler's decision tonight, they add that they will appoint a replacement within 30 days following the resignation. In November, voters will choose a candidate to serve the remaining 2 years of Fowler's term.
And now to the deal reached to raise the debt ceiling. President Biden and Speaker McCarthy and their negotiators hammering out the deal to avoid a potentially catastrophic U.S. default. But now the deal must get through the House. ABC's Rachel Scott with the bottom line. Do they have the votes?
Now that President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy have struck a deal to avoid a catastrophic default, the challenge, getting it through Congress. And tonight, fierce resistance from some of the most conservative House Republicans, the Freedom Caucus.
I want to be very clear. Not one Republican should vote for this deal. Yes. Not one.
The 2-year deal would claw back $30 billion in COVID relief, rescind $20 billion in IRS funding, end Biden's freeze on student loan repayments in August, and add new work requirements for some Americans on food assistance. Conservative Republicans say it doesn't go nearly far enough. You read the bill? Yeah. And where do you stand?
It's a terrible bill, plain and simple.
And you're a firm no?
Unless something changes on the bill, yeah, absolutely, I'm triple no.
You said that Republicans were outsmarted by Democrats.
Yeah, we got fleeced 100%.
Some Republicans saying McCarthy himself should go. The Speaker brushing it off. What's your message to some of the holdouts, Republicans who say that Republicans were outsmarted in this deal?
That's interesting. So how were we outsmarted? The largest cut in the history of Congress, the biggest ability to pull money back.
Tonight, at least 25 House Republicans say they will vote against the bill, which means McCarthy will need Democratic votes to get it over the finish line. But House progressives aren't sold.
Many progressives, including me, lean no because the bill does contain taking some folks like 53 and 54-year-olds off of their food stamps.
President Biden has personally been working the phones, and on Wednesday, senior administration officials will be here on Capitol Hill trying to address any last-minute concerns within the Democratic Party. The House is expected to vote on that bill Wednesday evening, and leaders are confident they have the votes. Rachel Scott, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Well, over the weekend, the DWR busy inspecting and decontaminating boats for quagga mussels across the state. DWR, Utah State Parks, and the Arizona Fishing Department inspected more than 8,500 boats and performed 103 decontaminations from Friday to Monday. Most of the inspections were conducted at Lake Powell to prevent mussels from contaminating water bodies in Utah. If quagga mussels get into the water delivery systems, it could cost millions of dollars to remove them and fix the pipes. They also remove certain organisms from the water, which impact our fish species. If mussels get into your boat's engine, they can damage it. So make sure to check and decontaminate your boat before exploring your next body of water.
Elated. You're absolutely elated. I just couldn't believe it.
Coming up, dozens of Utah veterans in our nation's capital visiting the monuments built in their honor. Reaction after the break.
All right. Plus, we still know there's some snow up in the mountain areas, but we're actually seeing improvement to our flood alerts. Show you some of the changes we're seeing and how much water's left in our snowpack. Details on that coming up after the break.